The biting wind carried the scent of pine and an undeniable chill that seeped into my bones, a cold more profound than the late autumn air. It was the chill of fear, a constant companion since the moon had first awakened the duality within me. My mother, Lyra, had been a proud, fierce wolf, her spirit tethered to the wild, her loyalty unwavering to her pack. My father, Marcus, a creature of shadow and ancient power, ruled the clandestine world of vampires, his existence defined by immortal thirst and a chilling intellect. I was the impossible child of their forbidden union, a truth whispered in hushed tones, a monstrous anomaly that defied every natural law. I wasn't supposed to survive. My very existence was an affront to both worlds, a cosmic joke that had become a living, breathing reality. I remembered fragmented scenes from my early childhood, moments stolen from the precipice of discovery. My mother, her eyes gleaming with a protective ferocity, teaching me the silent language of the forest, the subtle shift of the wind, the scent of fear in the air. My father, his touch cold but strangely comforting, patiently instructing me in ancient tongues, in the manipulation of shadows, in the disciplined control of an insatiable hunger that, even then, I sensed lurking within my own burgeoning veins. They had tried, in their desperate, fractured way, to prepare me, to shield me, to love me, even as the storm gathered on the horizon. But their love, however fierce, could not alter the fundamental truth. I was an abomination. The day my mother was found torn apart beneath the full moon, her death a brutal message carved into the very earth, the last vestiges of my innocence shattered. The wolves, fueled by ancient prejudice and a twisted sense of justice, blamed my father. The vampires, their cold logic dictating a different narrative, saw it as a calculated attack from the pack, a declaration of war. And I, the living embodiment of their transgression, was cast adrift, hunted by both sides, a walking paradox caught in the crossfire of an eternal feud. My name was Elara, a name given to me by my mother, meaning bright, shining one. A cruel irony, considering the darkness that now clung to my existence. For the past 5 years, I had lived on the fringes, a ghost flitting between human cities and untamed wilderness, always one step ahead, always looking over my shoulder. My senses, honed by an innate hybridity, were my greatest assets. I could hear the whispered secrets of the wind like a wolf, and perceive the subtle shifts in shadows like a vampire. My strength surpassed that of any purebred, my regeneration healing wounds that would fell lesser beings, my instincts a terrifying blend of predator and immortal. But my power was a double-edged sword. It was my survival, yet it was also the very thing that made me a threat. The alpha of the Blood Moon Pack, a hulking, unforgiving male named Gideon, saw me as an abomination, a stain on the purity of his bloodline. He believed my existence threatened the ancient balance, a harbinger of chaos. He wanted me dead, eliminated with extreme prejudice, a monstrous anomaly erased from the face of their world. His wolves, trained killers, tracked me relentlessly, their howls a constant chilling reminder of their unyielding pursuit. The vampire prince, Valerius, a being of chilling elegance and ancient cunning, held a different, arguably more terrifying agenda. He saw not an abomination, but a weapon, a potent, unparalleled tool to be forged in the fires of his ambition, wielded against his enemies. He wanted to understand my unique physiology, to dissect my abilities, to replicate my strength. He sent his shadowy enforcers, silent, deadly hunters, their movements swift and unseen, seeking to capture me, to bind me to his will, to twist my very essence into an instrument of his power. I just wanted to be free. Free from the constant hunt, free from the crushing weight of their expectations, their fear, their hatred. I wanted a life unburdened by bloodlines and ancient feuds, a quiet existence where I could simply be, where my strength was my own, not a source of fear or control. But in a world where my very being was an act of defiance, freedom felt like an impossible dream, a whisper on the wind that promised solace but offered none. My existence was a continuous flight, a desperate dance between two predatory forces, each seeking to claim me, to break me, or to erase me entirely. The chill in the air deepened, and I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that this precarious balance was about to shatter. The hunt was intensifying, and this time there might be no escape. The scent of an approaching storm, thick with ozone and damp earth, swirled around me, a natural prelude to the tempest brewing in my own life. I was holed up in a dilapidated cabin, nestled deep within the shadowed embrace of an ancient forest, its gnarled trees my only silent companions. For 3 days I had managed to evade Gideon's trackers, their howls growing fainter with each passing hour, but the phantom ache of their relentless pursuit lingered in my bones. The wolves were relentless, their senses honed by centuries of instinct, their loyalty to their alpha absolute. They saw me as a blight, a grotesque mutation that threatened the sanctity of their bloodline. My vampire senses, however, told a different story. A subtle tremor beneath the earth, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper on the wind that spoke of something cold, something ancient, something that moved with chilling precision. Valerius's enforcers were closer, far more insidious in their approach. They didn't rely on brute force or overt tracking. They relied on stealth, on manipulation, on the cold patience of immortals. Their presence was a prickle on my skin, a subtle tightening in my chest, a dread far more chilling than the wolves' raw aggression. Gideon wanted me dead. Valerius wanted me alive, but under his absolute control, a fate I considered far worse than death. I traced the faded patterns on the worn wooden table, my fingers brushing over the rough grain, seeking solace in the tangible. My unique physiology was a constant source of both power and torment. My wolf blood coursed with untamed energy, granting me enhanced senses, incredible speed, and a raw instinctual strength that often bordered on savage. I could shift, not into a full wolf, but into a more agile, powerful form, a predatory creature of sleek muscle and heightened senses, a blend of human and lupine, terrifyingly efficient. My vampire blood, on the other hand, gifted me with rapid regeneration, a chillingly precise intellect, and an unsettling allure that could bend lesser wills. I didn't crave blood like a true vampire, but the scent of it, particularly when mingled with fear, sent a jolt of unsettling power through me, a dark echo of my father's lineage. I was stronger than either bloodline expected, my abilities coalescing into something entirely new, something neither side understood, and thus something they profoundly feared. The quiet solitude of the cabin, once a haven, now felt like a trap. I knew I couldn't stay. My life was a constant cycle of flight and temporary refuge, a relentless dance on the knife edge of discovery. My only true companion was my independence, fiercely guarded, a solitary beacon in the encroaching darkness. I had learned to rely solely on myself, to trust no one, to expect betrayal from every corner. My mother's protective love was a distant echo, my father's cold tutelage a haunting memory. They were gone, their deaths a constant reminder of the fragile line I walked. A faint snap of a twig outside, almost imperceptible against the rising wind, sent an immediate jolt through me. Wolf. Close. Too close. My senses, sharper than any purebred, confirmed it. It wasn't Gideon, but one of his elite trackers, probably a scout, meticulously following my fading scent trail. He was good, patient, relentless. Before I could react, before I could even draw a quiet breath, a second, colder presence washed over me, a subtle chill that spoke of ancient power and predatory stillness. Vampire. Faster. Deadlier. Valerius's enforcers moved like whispers on the wind, their footsteps unheard, their intentions masked by centuries of cunning. They had found me, and they had found me first. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. They were converging. The wolf was a diversion, or perhaps simply a victim of their superior stealth. The cabin was compromised. My meticulously planned escape routes suddenly worthless. I moved not towards the door, but towards the back window, my movements fluid, silent. My hand brushed against the worn wooden frame, my fingers seeking purchase. Before I could even push it open, a figure materialized in the doorway, impossibly fast, a blur of dark clothing against the fading light. He was tall, lean, with eyes that glowed faintly in the gloom, a chilling, predatory red. His name was Cassian, one of Valerius's most trusted and feared enforcers, a man whose reputation for ruthless efficiency preceded him like a cold shadow. Elara, Cassian's voice, smooth and devoid of inflection, cut through the tense silence. The prince sends his regards. He believes it is time for you to return to your rightful place. He took a slow, deliberate step into the room, his gaze sweeping over me, assessing, calculating. There was no malice in his eyes, merely a cold, unwavering determination. He wasn't interested in a fight, only in a capture. Behind him, a faint snarl erupted from the trees, closer now. The wolf. He had finally caught up. Cassian registered the sound, his lips curling into a faint, disdainful sneer. Crude, he murmured, his gaze never leaving mine. Always so unrefined. The wolf burst into the clearing outside, a magnificent creature of grey fur and burning yellow eyes. He was larger than any wolf I had ever seen, rippling with pure, untamed power. His name was Theron, one of Gideon's most loyal and skilled trackers, a warrior in his own right. He snarled, his lips drawn back in a primal display of aggression, his eyes fixed on Cassian, then on me, a mixture of hatred and a strange, almost reluctant AW. He recognized the vampire, but his primary target, his undeniable instinct, was me, the hybrid abomination. Cassian, with a sigh of elegant impatience, extended a hand, his movements impossibly fast. A shimmering, almost invisible energy field crackled around his palm, a silent threat, a testament to his ancient power. Come quietly, Elara. It will be less messy. Theron, seeing the vampires move, let out a furious roar, charging towards the cabin, a blur of grey fur and primal rage. He wasn't just a wolf. He was a conduit of Gideon's fury, a living extension of the Alpha's absolute disdain for my existence. I stood between them, caught in the crossfire, a dangerous dance unfolding. On one side, the cold, calculating power of the vampire, seeking to bind me. On the other, the primal, unyielding aggression of the wolf, seeking to destroy me. This was the reality of my existence. The impossible crossroads where two worlds collided, and I, the living embodiment of their conflict, was trapped in the middle. My only path to survival, to freedom, was to defy them both. The cabin, once my refuge, now my cage, and the storm, both natural and supernatural, was about to break. My heart hammered against my ribs, a desperate drumbeat against the encroaching darkness. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was the moment my flight would either end in capture or death, or perhaps a terrifying, unforeseen defiance. The cabin, once a haven, had become a crucible, trapping me between the snarling fury of the wolf and the cold, calculating power of the vampire. Theron, the Alpha's tracker, a magnificent creature of grey fur and burning yellow eyes, lunged towards the doorway. His primal rage aimed squarely at Cassian, Valerius's enforcer. Cassian, however, met the charge with an almost casual disdain, a shimmering energy field crackling around his outstretched palm, radiating a silent, chilling threat. His eyes, glowing faintly red, were fixed on me, his true prize. I braced myself, my senses hyper-alert, my body poised for immediate action. My hybrid nature, a blend of wolf instinct and vampire cunning, screamed at me to exploit the chaos, to use their mutual hatred as a shield. Theron's attack was raw, unbridled power, driven by the pure instinct of a predator protecting his territory, eliminating an abomination. Cassian's defense was precise, almost elegant, born of centuries of refined combat and a chilling intellect. As Theron launched himself through the doorway, a blur of teeth and claws, Cassian simply shifted his weight, his movements impossibly fast. The energy field around his hand pulsed, not as a direct attack, but as a subtle, disorienting wave that slammed into the charging wolf. Theron stumbled, his powerful body briefly losing coherence, a guttural snarl of frustration escaping his throat. Was powerful, but Cassian's ancient vampiric abilities transcended mere brute strength. It was my chance. Before Theron could recover, before Cassian could refocus his full attention on me, I moved. My escape route through the back window was compromised, but there was another way. A loose floorboard, a forgotten crawl space beneath the cabin, a desperate gamble. I dropped low, a silent shadow moving beneath their clash. My wolf senses screamed danger, urging me to run, to flee into the forest. My vampire intellect, colder and more calculating, pushed me to exploit the opening, to disappear into the earth itself. I ripped at the loose board, my hybrid strength tearing at the rotten wood with surprising ease. The sharp scent of damp earth and decaying leaves filled my nostrils as I squeezed through the narrow opening, my body contorting with agile precision. "She's escaping," Baron roared, his voice human now, a guttural growl of frustration as he regained his footing and lunged again at Cassian, a desperate attempt to break free and pursue me. Cassian, momentarily startled by my sudden disappearance, let out a low, almost amused chuckle. "Clever girl," he murmured, his eyes scanning the now empty space where I had been. "But not clever enough." He effortlessly deflected Theron's renewed assault, a graceful parry that sent the wolf stumbling back, his fury growing with each frustrated attempt. Beneath the cabin, the space was cramped, dark, and filled with the musty scent of forgotten time. My enhanced senses, usually a blessing, now became a curse, amplifying the sounds of the struggle above me. The sharp crack of splintering wood as Theron's powerful body slammed against the cabin wall. The sickening thud of fists meeting flesh as Cassian's superior speed allowed him to land precise blows, the desperate snarls, and the chilling, almost melodic sounds of ancient power at play. I crawled through the narrow passage, the rough earth scraping against my clothes, my skin. My mind raced, trying to find an exit point, a way out of this subterranean trap. I knew this forest, its hidden burrows, its forgotten paths, but I also knew their relentless pursuit. Cassian would send his others after me, his cold hunters. Gideon would unleash his entire pack, their primal instincts driving them to root me out. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light pierced the darkness of the crawl space, followed by a searing heat. A small explosion, muffled but powerful, rocked the cabin above me. The sound of splintering wood intensified, accompanied by a guttural cry from Theron and a sharp, almost surprised hiss from Cassian. I froze, pressed against the damp earth, my heart hammering against my ribs. What was that? It wasn't a human weapon. It felt like something ancient. Vampire power, unleashed in a way I hadn't anticipated. The sounds of struggle above ceased abruptly, replaced by a chilling silence. The air grew thick with the acrid scent of ozone and something else, something I recognized with a jolt of fear. The faint, metallic tang of vampire blood mingled with the unmistakable coppery scent of wolf blood. Both, one of them, perhaps both, were wounded. Or worse. Fear, cold and sharp, sliced through my focus. Had Cassian detonated something, a last resort to destroy Theron? Or had Theron, in a desperate, final act, managed to inflict a wound on the ancient vampire? The uncertainty was suffocating. If Cassian was incapacitated, I might have a fleeting window of escape from the vampires. But if Theron was dead, Gideon's fury would be absolute, his hunt for me even more relentless. I cautiously, meticulously, crawled further, my senses strained, seeking any sign of movement, any indication of who, if anyone, remained above. The silence was deafening, a prelude to either salvation or capture. After what felt like an eternity, I reached the end of the crawl space. A small, hidden opening, obscured by tangled roots and damp earth. I pushed through, emerging into the biting cold of the forest floor, my body aching, my heart still thrumming. The cabin was a smoking ruin. a charred skeleton against the twilight sky. The explosion had been significant, tearing through the structure, leaving behind a devastating path of destruction. My eyes, enhanced by my wolf blood, immediately swept the area, searching for any sign of Theron or Cassian. I saw him first. Theron. He lay sprawled near the remains of the cabin, a few yards from the gaping hole that was once the front door. He was in his human form, his powerful body unmoving, covered in deep, jagged wounds, still bleeding sluggishly into the cold earth. His breathing was shallow, ragged, his face pale, etched with pain. He was gravely injured, close to death. The Alpha's tracker, brought down not by a rival wolf, but by the cold, calculated power of a vampire. My eyes then found Cassian. He was further away, leaning against a gnarled oak tree, his usual elegant posture marred by a desperate stillness. His dark tactical clothing was torn, revealing a gaping wound on his side, oozing a faint, shimmering liquid, his cold blood. He was injured, severely, his movements slow, his eyes dull. The explosion, perhaps a desperate gamble to eliminate Theron, had clearly backfired, leaving him vulnerable. They were both incapacitated, both brought low by their mutual hatred, their desperate clash. My heart ached with a strange mix of relief and a profound, unsettling guilt. I had engineered the chaos, the darkness that had led to their injuries, however indirectly. They had sought to control or destroy me, yet, in their pursuit, they had nearly destroyed each other. A chilling thought pierced my mind. Gideon. Valerius. They would know. They would feel the injury to their own. And their fury, once focused, would now be magnified, redirected with an even greater intensity towards me, the impossible hybrid who was now the sole survivor of their confrontation. I looked at Theron, bleeding, dying, the man who embodied the pack's hatred for me. Then, at Cassian, wounded, weakened, the agent of the prince who sought to bind me. My instincts screamed to flee, to seize this fleeting window of opportunity to disappear into the vast, indifferent wilderness. But something held me back. A flicker of something unexpected, something human. My mother, the wolf, had taught me compassion, a deep respect for all life, even in the face of conflict. My father, the vampire, had taught me the cold logic of survival, the ruthless efficiency of exploiting weakness. I was both, and neither. And in that moment, standing between the remnants of a destroyed cabin and two fallen adversaries, I felt a profound conflict, a battle between instinct and something far more complex. I looked at the wounds, the fading life in Theron's eyes, the chilling vulnerability in Cassian's injured form. I had the power to save them, or to let them die. And in that choice, I realized, lay the true test of who, or what, I was. My freedom, my survival, depended on it. But my very soul, the fragile balance of my hybrid nature, demanded a different kind of justice, one that transcended their ancient feuds. This was my burden, my curse, and perhaps my unexpected path to a new kind of existence. The cold forest air bit at my exposed skin, but the chill that truly settled in my bones was the one born of the impossible choice laid before me. Theron, The wolf tracker who had hunted me relentlessly lay bleeding, his life ebbing away with each shallow breath. Cassian, the vampire enforcer who sought to shackle me, leaned against the gnarled oak, his ancient blood seeping from a grievous wound, his powerful form weakened and vulnerable. Their mutual hatred, their desperate clash, had brought them to this precipice. And I, the very object of their pursuit, was now their only hope of survival. My hybrid senses screamed at me. The wolf in me urged flight, to leave them to their fate, to seize this precious fleeting window of escape. This was Gideon's tracker, a symbol of the pack's unyielding prejudice, a direct threat to my existence. And this was Valerius's enforcer, a chilling reminder of the prince's ambition to weaponize me, to strip away my very autonomy. Logic, cold and sharp as a vampire's fangs, dictated that their incapacitation was my ultimate victory, my path to freedom. Yet, my mother's teachings, the echoes of her fierce, untamed compassion, resonated within me. She had instilled a deep reverence for life, a belief in the intricate balance of nature, even when that nature was hostile. My human heart, the fragile, often vulnerable core of my being, rebelled against the cold logic of abandonment. I had seen too much death, too much destruction. To leave them to die, even my tormentors, felt like a betrayal of the very essence of who I was struggling to become. I knelt beside Theron first, the wolf, my hand hovering over his wounds. His breathing was shallow, his pulse thready. He needed immediate attention. His eyes, still burning with a faint spark of defiance, met mine. There was no hatred in them now, only pain, and a raw, almost desperate vulnerability. He was a warrior, brought low. My vampire blood, with its remarkable regenerative properties, held a potential cure, a frightening thought. A direct infusion would heal him, but it would also bind him to me. A silent, intimate connection, a bond neither of us might desire. It was a risk, a profound breach of the invisible lines that separated our worlds. But it was his only chance. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. This wasn't about saving an enemy. It was about honoring the faint, fragile hope that existed within my own hybrid soul. I bit my wrist, the sharp tang of my own blood filling my mouth, a potent, shimmering red that pulsed with life. I pressed my wrist to his lips, forcing a few drops into his mouth. His body convulsed, a violent tremor, as my vampire blood, potent and unnatural to his wolf physiology, coursed through his veins. His wounds, slowly, miraculously, began to knit. The deep gashes on his torso, the ragged tears on his limbs, began to close, the flow of blood staunching. His breathing deepened, becoming less strained, more even. His eyes, still wide, watched me with a mixture of terror, confusion, and a dawning understanding. My touch, my blood, was saving him. The abomination was his healer. I pulled away, a strange exhaustion settling over me, the drain of my regenerative power momentarily weakening me. I then turned to Cassian, still slumped against the tree, his face pale, his glowing eyes dull with pain. His wound, oozing iridescent vampire blood, was severe, a chilling testament to the force of the explosion. Even in your weakened state, you were formidable, I murmured, my voice low, to Cassian. A desperate gamble. Cassian's lips, usually set in a disdainful sneer, twitched. An unfortunate miscalculation, he rasped, his voice weak. I underestimated the wolf's tenacity. He looked at me, his gaze clouded by pain, then flickered to Theron, whose wounds were visibly closing. A flash of shock crossed his features. You healed him. With your blood. Impossible. Not impossible, I stated, my voice calm. Merely unprecedented. I knelt before him, this ancient, powerful being now reduced to a vulnerable state. My decision was made. My hybrid nature compelled me to act, to mitigate the destruction I had, however indirectly, caused. I bit my other wrist, the familiar sharp pain, a reminder of my unique power. I pressed it to his lips, my own blood, potent and strange, mingling with the cold, shimmering essence of his. His body shuddered, a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor, as my life force began to mend his ancient wounds, the iridescent flow staunching, the tears in his elegant clothing closing as his flesh knitted itself whole. Cassian watched me, his amber eyes clearing, sharpening, a profound astonishment replacing the pain. You save your enemies, he whispered, his voice gaining strength, the words tinged with a bewildered respect. Why? Because, I replied, my gaze meeting his, unwavering. I am not defined by your feuds. I am defined by my own choices. And my choice is to be free, not to be a weapon, not to be an executioner, to rise above the hatred that consumes both your worlds. I pulled away, my own body now trembling with exertion. The drain of healing two powerful beings, a significant cost. Theron, fully recovered, sat up, his eyes fixed on me, a profound, unreadable expression on his face. The wolf's senses, once driven by hatred, now registered a debt, an incomprehensible act of mercy from the hybrid he was sworn to destroy. Cassian pushed himself upright, his usual elegance returning, though a subtle stiffness remained in his movements. He touched the healed wound on his side, his fingers tracing the smooth, unblemished skin. His eyes, now glowing with their usual predatory intensity, focused on me, a new, complex understanding in their depths. You have changed the roles, Elara, he stated, his voice now strong, yet tinged with a grudging respect. You have bound us, in a way, a debt that cannot be ignored. I bound no one, I retorted, my voice firm. I simply chose life over death. The choice of how you proceed is yours. But know this, if either of you, or your masters, attempt to hunt me again, to control me, or to destroy me, you will face not just a hybrid, but something far more formidable, a force born of survival and a will forged in trine. Defiance. My words were a quiet declaration of war, a promise of retribution if they dared to violate the unspoken truce I had just established. Theron, still silent, slowly stood, his powerful wolf form now fully restored. He looked at Cassian, a flicker of their innate animosity in his eyes, then back at me, a complicated mix of awe, confusion, and a dawning, unwilling respect. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture of deference rarely seen from a wolf tracker, particularly one from Gideon's pack. Elara, he rumbled, his voice low, his first word to me since the attack. My alpha will not forget this, or your existence. His words were a warning, but also, surprisingly, a promise of respect. Cassian, his elegant form now completely recovered, regarded me with a calculating, almost fascinated gaze. "The prince will be intrigued," he mused, a faint, unsettling smile playing on his lips. "He will see your power now, in a way he could not have imagined. He will still want to weaponize you, Elara, but perhaps his approach will change." He took a slow, deliberate step towards me, then stopped, his gaze unwavering. "You have earned my respect, hybrid, and perhaps a debt that will one day be repaid." With a final, assessing look, Cassian vanished, dissolving into the shadows with the silent speed only a true vampire could command. Beren, after another long moment of studying me, transformed back into his human form, a powerful, imposing warrior. He nodded once, a gesture of farewell and acknowledgement, before turning and disappearing into the dense forest, his movements silent, leaving only a faint scent of pine and damp earth behind. I stood alone in the ruins of the cabin, the smoking debris a testament to the battle that had just transpired. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of healing blood and the lingering tension of a profound, unexpected shift in the balance of power. I had saved my enemies, not out of weakness, but out of a desperate need to define my own existence, to forge my own path beyond their hatred. My actions would have immense repercussions. Gideon and Valerius would now know the true extent of my powers, the unsettling ability to heal, to bind, to defy their very natures. The Alpha would no longer simply want me dead, he would fear me. The Vampire Prince would still want to weaponize me, but with a new, terrifying understanding of my potential. But I had asserted my will. I had drawn a line in the sand, a declaration of my independence. I was Elara, the hybrid, a force neither side could fully comprehend, a wild card in their ancient game. And for the first time in 5 years, amidst the ashes of conflict, I felt a flicker of something akin to hope. Freedom felt less like an impossible dream and more like a terrifying, achievable reality. The hunt would continue, but now, the hunters knew they faced something far more than just a quarry. They faced a powerful, unpredictable hybrid who had just healed her enemies, and in doing so had redefined the very nature of their war. My path, though still fraught with danger, was now undeniably my own. The forest, once a mere hiding place, now felt like a living entity, a silent witness to the profound shift in my existence. My encounter with Theron and Cassian, the act of healing them with my own blood, resonated deep within me, a seismic shift in my understanding of my hybrid nature. I was no longer merely a survivor. I was a catalyst, a force that could alter the very fabric of the ancient feud that had defined my life. The act of compassion, of defying the inherent hatred of both my bloodlines, had paradoxically solidified my strength, giving me a purpose beyond mere survival. I felt the subtle changes within me, the lingering resonance of my blood mixing with theirs. A faint, almost imperceptible pull, a whisper of connection to Theron, the wolf I had healed. A cold, electric hum that spoke of a chilling, intricate bond with Cassian, the vampire whose ancient life force I had mended. It wasn't control, not in the way Valerius sought, but a subtle, shared vulnerability an undeniable mark of my intervention. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, a realization that my choices had unforeseen, irreversible consequences. For days I moved through the wilderness, not frantically fleeing, but with a new, deliberate purpose. My senses, sharper than ever, stretched out, not just for threats, but for opportunities. I needed allies, or, at the very least, a neutral ground, a place where I could understand and perhaps even harness the intricacies of my unique power. The idea of freedom, once a desperate plea, was slowly transforming into a tangible goal, one that required strategy, not just evasion. The full moon, now only a few nights away, cast a luminous glow through the dense canopy of trees. It was a potent force for the wolves, a time of heightened power, but for me, it was a period of intense, often agonizing transformation. My wolf blood thrummed with unrestrained energy, pushing against my vampire control, threatening to overwhelm my human consciousness. The shift was always painful, a brutal tearing and reforming of muscle and bone, a primal surge that sometimes threatened to consume me entirely. I needed a secure place for the shift, a place where I wouldn't be discovered in my vulnerable, transformed state. My journey led me, surprisingly, to an old, abandoned hunting lodge deep in a forgotten valley, miles from any human settlement or known supernatural territory. It was crumbling, overgrown, but its stone walls offered a sense of sturdy enclosure, a momentary illusion of safety. I began to fortify it, instinctively, using my heightened strength to clear debris, reinforce windows, and block off potential entry points. It was a primal urge, the nesting instinct of a creature seeking refuge, but also the strategic foresight of an operative preparing for a siege. As I worked, the scent of a new presence reached me, faint but unmistakable, human. And something else, something old, not vampire, not wolf. Something different, a subtle static in the air, a whisper of ancient magic. My senses, honed by years of surviving the supernatural, instantly recognized it. A witch. My hand instinctively went to the small, concealed dagger I always carried, its blade honed to a razor's edge. Witches were a wild card in the supernatural world, often unpredictable, their loyalties shifting, their power potent and often dangerous. They existed on the fringes, rarely aligning with either packs or covens, preferring their own hidden enclaves. A figure emerged from the dense forest, moving with a surprising grace for someone so clearly advanced in years. She was an old woman, her face a tapestry of wrinkles, her eyes a startling shade of emerald green, sharp and intelligent. Her grey hair, braided with strands of beads and dried herbs, framed a face that held both wisdom and a hint of mischievous defiance. She wore simple, earthy clothes, a cloak woven with intricate symbols draped over her shoulders. She carried a gnarled staff, its wood glowing faintly with an inner light. She stopped a few yards from the lodge, her gaze fixed on me, unafraid, unblinking. "Elara," she stated, her voice surprisingly strong, a melodious cadence that echoed through the quiet forest. She knew my name, my true name. A chill, unconnected to the weather, ran down my spine. "I have been expecting you." My hand instinctively tightened on the hilt of my dagger. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice low, laced with caution. My name is Morwen, she replied, a faint, knowing smile touching her lips. And I am a seer, a guardian of the ancient ways. I have foreseen your arrival, Elara, your struggle, and your unique destiny. Your hybrid nature, your very existence, is a pivotal point in the balance of our world. I narrowed my eyes, suspicion warring with a strange sense of intrigue. Seers were rare, their prophecies often cryptic, but always potent. What do you want? I asked, cutting straight to the point. I had no time for riddles or games. Morwen's smile softened, her emerald eyes holding a deep, ancient sadness. I want to help you, child, to guide you. Both the wolves and the vampires fear what they do not understand. They will destroy you, or twist you to their will. But you are more than just a weapon, Elara. You are a bridge, a potential new path. She extended a gnarled hand, her voice gentle yet firm. The full moon approaches. You will need a place of true safety for your shift, and you will need answers, knowledge of your true potential. The answers lie not in avoiding your nature, but in embracing it, in understanding its craft. Delicate balance. My mind raced. A seer. A witch. A potential ally in a world filled with enemies. She spoke of understanding, of embracing my nature, a stark contrast to the fear and control that defined my pursuers. But trust was a foreign concept, a luxury I couldn't afford. My past was a litany of betrayals and brutal lessons. Yet there was an undeniable aura of power around her, a profound wisdom that resonated with the deepest, most ancient parts of my being. And she knew my name. She knew of my struggle. And she knew of the coming full moon, a vulnerability I had fiercely guarded. How do you know these things? I asked, my voice tinged with a reluctant curiosity. The threads of destiny are complex, Elara, Morwen replied, her gaze unwavering. But they whisper to those who listen. Your blood hums with a unique frequency, a resonance that cannot be ignored. The healing of the wolf and the vampire, that was not an act of weakness, but an act of profound power. It rippled through the ancient currents, drawing my attention. She took another step closer, her voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial whisper. Didion, the Alpha, will not rest until you are dead. His fear of the unknown is absolute. And Valerius, the Prince, will not cease until you are bound. His ambition knows no limits. You are alone against two ancient powers, but you do not have to be. She extended her hand further, a silent invitation, her emerald eyes piercing, yet strangely comforting. Come, Elara. The lodge can be more than just a refuge. It can be a place of learning, a sanctuary, a path to your true freedom. But the choice, as always, is yours. I looked at the crumbling lodge, then at the ancient seer, her face etched with wisdom and a strange, compelling kindness. The full moon was indeed approaching. The hunters, both wolf and vampire, would be back, their pursuit intensified by the shocking news of their injured agents. I could flee again, a desperate flight into the unknown. Or I could take a leap of faith into a world of ancient magic and cryptic prophecies, with a witch who claimed to hold the key to my destiny. My instincts, a complex blend of predator and survivor, warred within me. but the desire for true freedom, for understanding, for a life where I wasn't just hunted but truly belonged, was a powerful, undeniable force. I looked at Morwen, her hand still extended, an offer of guidance in a world that had only offered me violence. "What is the cost, Morwen?" I asked, my voice low, wary. "There is always a cost." Morwen's smile deepened, a knowing glint in her emerald eyes. "The cost, child, is courage. The courage to face your true self. The courage to defy expectations. The courage to embrace the power that resides within you and to wield it not for destruction, but for balance. And perhaps the courage to trust." I hesitated for a moment longer, the weight of my past, the constant lessons of betrayal pressing down on me. But the desperate longing for a different future, a life beyond the endless hunt, outweighed my caution. I looked at her extended hand, a fragile bridge across a chasm of fear and mistrust. With a deep breath, I reached out, my hand meeting hers. Her skin was warm, surprisingly firm, and a subtle energy, ancient and powerful, flowed between us. A silent promise of the path ahead. My journey, I realized, was no longer just about survival, but about transformation, about finding my place in a world that wanted me dead, and forging a new destiny for the impossible hybrid. The true magic and the true danger had just begun. My hand met Morwen's, and a jolt of ancient energy, subtle yet undeniable, coursed through me. It wasn't forceful or controlling, but a gentle awakening, a resonance that hummed deep within my hybrid core. Her emerald eyes, sharp and knowing, held my gaze, and in them I saw not judgment or fear, but a profound understanding, a sense of having been seen, truly seen, for the first time in my life. The crumbling hunting lodge, surrounded by the shadowed forest, now felt less like a temporary refuge, and more like a threshold to something extraordinary. "Welcome, Elara," Morwen said, her voice a soft, melodic hum that resonated with the earth itself. "The path you walk is difficult, but it is also one of immense potential. Your existence, the blending of two ancient opposing forces, holds the key to a balance long forgotten." She led me into the lodge, her movements surprisingly spry for her age. The interior, though dilapidated, held a surprising warmth. A small, crackling fireplace offered a welcome glow. Illuminating shelves, lined with ancient, leather-bound tomes, bundles of dried herbs hanging from the rafters, and an array of intricate, hand-carved wooden figures that seemed to hum with a quiet energy. It was a place steeped in magic, a sanctuary of forgotten knowledge. Over the next few days, Morwen began my education, an initiation into a world far more complex and nuanced than the brutal realities of packs and covens. She taught me about the ancient lineages that preceded the current conflict, tales of a time when wolves and vampires, though distinct, coexisted in a fragile harmony, their powers balancing the natural world. She spoke of the first hybrids, rare anomalies born of desperate unions, beings revered and feared in equal measure, often seen as harbingers of either doom or a new era. "Your mother and father," Morwen explained one evening, her eyes fixed on the dancing flames in the hearth. "Their love, however forbidden, was not a curse, Elara. It was an act of profound defiance. an attempt to bridge an impossible divide. And you, there, child, are the living embodiment of that defiance. You carry the raw power of the wolf, connected to the primal energies of the earth and the moon. Subtle power of the vampire, connected to the unseen currents of shadow and ancient knowledge. The key, child, is to harmonize them, not to let one dominate the other. She taught me about the subtle energies that permeated the world, the ley lines that crisscrossed the earth, the way the moon's phases influenced not just wolves, but all supernatural beings. She guided me in meditation, not the quiet contemplation of a human, but a deep sensory immersion, allowing me to fully experience the ebb and flow of my inner power, the wolf and the vampire coalescing into a single, vibrant force. I learned to control the volatile shifts, to embrace the raw energy of my wolf form without losing my human consciousness, to tap into my vampire abilities without succumbing to the cold detachment that often accompanied them. The full moon approached, a silver orb growing larger in the night sky. The internal struggle within me intensified, the wolf blood surging, demanding release, threatening to overwhelm my control. Morwen guided me to a secluded clearing behind the lodge, a place she had warded with intricate magical symbols, its boundaries shimmering faintly in the moonlight. "Tonight, Elara," Morwen said, her voice firm yet reassuring, "you will fully embrace your transformation, not as a beast, not as a victim of your blood, but as the powerful, balanced being you are meant to be. I will be here. You are safe." The transformation was still agonizing, a brutal tearing and reshaping of my body. My bones shifted, my muscles rippled, my senses exploded with an overwhelming intensity. But this time, it was different. With Morwen's calm presence, her grounding energy, I didn't fight the change, I surrendered to it, allowing the raw power to flow through me, guiding it, shaping it. I emerged not as a feral beast, but as a magnificent creature of sleek, midnight black fur, my human eyes now glowing with a vibrant, otherworldly gold, clear and intelligent. I was larger than any purebred wolf, my form more streamlined, more powerful, my movements imbued with an unsettling grace that spoke of both lupine agility and vampiric speed. I was a true hybrid, a perfect blend of both forms, terrifyingly beautiful. I ran through the forest, the power coursing through me, exhilarating and unburdening. My senses were exquisitely attuned. I could hear the whisper of a single leaf falling miles away, smell the faint scent of a deer's breath from across the valley. My speed was exhilarating, a blur of motion through the trees. I felt utterly free, unbound by the limitations of either bloodline, a creature of pure, unadulterated power. When the sun began to rise, I returned to the lodge, the transformation back to human form, seamless, painless, a testament to my newfound control. "You have embraced your true self, Elara," Morwen declared, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "The balance is strong within you. You are no longer just a hybrid. You are a bridge, a force to be reckoned with." Our training continued, deepening my understanding of my abilities. I learned to manipulate shadows, not just for stealth, but to create illusions, to disorient opponents, to shroud my presence. I honed my regeneration, accelerating the healing process, even repairing deep tissue damage with astonishing speed. I discovered a subtle ability to influence emotions, a faint, almost subconscious resonance, a legacy of my father's mesmerizing vampiric allure, which I chose to wield with extreme caution, prioritizing empathy over manipulation. One quiet afternoon, as I was practicing a complex shadow manipulation technique outside the lodge, a subtle tremor in the air reached me, a familiar, cold hum that spoke of ancient power and predatory stillness. Valerius. He had found me. Or rather, he was being drawn to my now undeniable presence, the amplified resonance of my awakened power. He will come himself now, Elara, Morwen stated, emerging from the lodge, her face grim. He senses your shift, your newfound strength. He sees a perfected weapon, one he cannot ignore. His ambition will drive him here. And Gideon? I asked, my voice calm, but my senses already tingling with anticipation. Will he come too? The Alpha is a creature of primal instinct and unwavering conviction, Morwen replied, her gaze distant. He feels your power, Elara, your growing strength. He will still fear you, but that fear will now be tinged with a desperate need to contain you. He will send his strongest, perhaps even come himself, believing he must pull. Restore the balance, even if it means destroying you. Their reactions will be amplified by their knowledge of your healing of their agents. My heart hammered against my ribs, a familiar drumbeat of impending conflict. The quiet sanctuary of the lodge was about to become a battlefield. I had embraced my power, honed my skills, and found a guide in Morwen. But now I faced the ultimate test, a confrontation with the two ancient powers that sought to either destroy me or control me. What is your plan, Elara? Morwen asked, her emerald eyes fixed on mine, her voice calm, a silent challenge. I looked at the lodge, then at the surrounding forest, my mind racing, assessing, strategizing. I had gained control over my abilities, understood my true nature. But understanding was one thing, survival in the face of two ancient formidable powers was another. I won't run, I stated, my voice firm, resolute. Not anymore. I've spent my life fleeing, hiding, but I am no longer just a victim of circumstance. I am Elara, a hybrid, and I will choose my own path. I will make them understand that I am not a monster to be eliminated, nor a weapon to be wielded. I am a force of my own. Morwen nodded slowly, a faint, almost proud smile touching her lips. Then we prepare, child. The storm approaches, and this time you will not simply weather it, you will command it. My gaze hardened, my senses reaching out, feeling the approaching shadows, the distant thrum of powerful beings. The final confrontation was inevitable. My freedom, my very existence, depended on my ability to stand firm, to unleash the full, terrifying potential of my hybrid power, and to make both Pax and the vampire coven understand that the base ghost was now a formidable presence, a new power in their ancient world, one that would redefine the very meaning of survival and freedom. The battle for my destiny had truly begun. The air around the hunting lodge thickened with an almost palpable tension, a premonition of the storm that was rapidly approaching. Morwen moved with a quiet urgency, reinforcing the protective wards around the lodge, her gnarled hands weaving intricate patterns in the air, murmuring ancient incantations. The shimmering energy around the perimeter pulsed, a silent barrier against the impending forces. I, too, prepared, not for defense, but for a calculated confrontation. My training with Morwen had transformed my understanding of my powers. Now, it was time to put them to the ultimate test. My wolf senses, heightened and finely tuned, picked up the first unmistakable signs of Gideon's pack. A low growl, barely audible, vibrating through the earth. The faint, metallic scent of agitated wolves, their primal fury a palpable force. They were many, their numbers far exceeding Gideon's usual hunting party, a testament to his fear and desperation. He was bringing the full might of his pack, an overwhelming force meant to crush me, to extinguish the perceived abomination once and for all. I could feel their collective consciousness, a tide of raw aggression, washing over the forest. Almost simultaneously, my vampire senses registered the colder, more insidious approach of Valerius's enforcers. A whisper of shadow, a chilling presence that seemed to bleed into the very fabric of the twilight. The air grew still, unnaturally so, devoid of the rustle of leaves, the chirping of unseen insects. They were fewer, but each one radiated a lethal precision, their movements silent, their intentions masked by centuries of cunning. They were the shadows of death, sent to capture me, to bind me, to turn my very essence into a weapon for their prince. "They are here," I stated, my voice calm, devoid of fear, merely an observation. My gaze met Morwen's. "Remember your balance, Elara," Morwen urged, her eyes gleaming with emerald light. "The wolf's strength, the vampire's control. Harmonize them. Do not let their hatred consume your purpose. Your freedom lies in your own power, not in their destruction." I nodded, my breath even, my heart surprisingly steady. The terror that had once consumed me in the face of their pursuit was now replaced by a chilling resolve. I was no longer a hunted animal. I was a being of immense power, standing at the crossroads of my destiny. The first to breach the clearing were the wolves. They burst from the tree line, a torrent of grey and black fur, their eyes burning with a primal ferocity. Gideon, the alpha, a massive, scarred wolf, led the charge, his presence radiating an almost palpable aura of unyielding authority and righteous fury. His eyes, burning like molten gold, fixed on me, hatred blazing in their depths. He transformed into his human form, a hulking, muscular man, his face contorted with rage, his voice a guttural roar that echoed through the forest. "Abomination!" Gideon bellowed, his voice vibrating with primal fury. "You stain the very essence of our kind. You will be purged." Before he could take another step, a colder, more elegant presence materialized in the clearing. Valerius, the vampire prince, emerged from the deepest shadows, his form silhouetted against the dim moonlight. He was unnervingly beautiful, his features chiseled, his eyes a mesmerizing, ancient crimson that glowed with a chilling intellect. He wore a cloak of midnight black that seemed to absorb the light, his movements fluid, utterly silent. He regarded Gideon with a faint, disdainful sneer, his gaze then sweeping over me, a calculating, possessive glint in his eyes. "Gideon." Valerius's voice was a low, melodic hum, resonating with ancient power, utterly devoid of emotion. "Always so crude. This creature, however much of an anomaly, is my property, my future. She is not to be harmed." Gideon snarled, his eyes narrowing. "Your property? She is a blight, a grotesque mockery of nature. Her very existence threatens the balance. She dies tonight." Valerius merely chuckled, a cold, dry sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "You speak of balance, Alpha, while clinging to outdated prejudices? This one," he gestured to me, a possessive flick of his wrist, "is the key to a new balance, a new era, a source of power that will elevate my coven beyond all limitations. She will be weaponized, yes, but she will be mine." The tension in the clearing became unbearable, a palpable force vibrating between the two ancient leaders. The wolves, arrayed behind Gideon, shifted restlessly, their primal instincts warring with the subtle, chilling power emanating from Valerius. The vampire enforcers, cloaked in shadow behind their prince, remained utterly still, their glowing eyes fixed on the wolves, silent and deadly. I stood between them, the focal point of their mutual hatred and their terrifying ambition. My heart, a complex engine of wolf and vampire, pounded against my ribs. This was not a moment for grand speeches or desperate pleas. This was a moment for action. "I annihilate your abomination, Gideon," I stated, my voice clear and steady, cutting through the heavy silence. "Nor your property, Valerius." My voice, amplified by an inner power I hadn't known I possessed, resonated through the clearing, commanding their attention. "I am Elara, and I will be free." Gideon scoffed, a dismissive sneer twisting his lips. "Foolish hybrid, you stand alone against us both. You have no power here." "You are mistaken, Alpha," I retorted, my gaze fixed on his, unyielding. "I healed your tracker, Theron, the one you sent to kill me, and I healed your enforcer, Cassian, Valerius, the one you sent to capture me." A ripple of shock went through both the wolves and the vampires. Their eyes, wide with disbelief, flickered to Theron, who stood among Gideon's ranks, his face etched with a complex mixture of shame and bewildered respect, and to Cassian, who stood in Valerius's shadowy group, his usual cold composure subtly fractured by a flicker of undeniable acknowledgement. The news of my healing ability, previously only a rumour, was now a shocking truth, laid bare. Gideon's eyes widened, a flicker of raw fear mixed with his fury. "Lies! Impossible! A hybrid cannot possess such power." "A power you fear, Gideon," I countered, stepping forward, drawing upon the primal energy of my wolf blood, allowing my golden eyes to glow with an inner luminescence. "Power you do not understand. And you, Valerius." I turned my gaze to the vampire prince. "You see only a tool. But I am not a tool. I am a force." I drew upon my vampire blood, the air around me shimmering, shadows deepening around my form, my presence growing in intensity. Valerius's gaze sharpened, a terrifying blend of avarice and a dawning, grudging respect. He had seen glimpses of my power, but this raw, unleashed potential was beyond his expectations. "You have both hunted me for years," I continued, my voice gaining strength, resonating with the combined power of both my bloodlines. "You have sought to define me by your ancient hatreds, but I define myself, and I offer you a choice." I extended my hands, palms open, not in surrender, but in a gesture of deliberate power. "Cease your pursuit. Cease your war. Acknowledge my right to exist, free and unburdened. And I will ensure that the fragile balance of our worlds is maintained. I will be a guardian, not a weapon. A bridge, not a battlefield." Gideon let out a furious snarl. "Never. You are an abomination. You will die." He lunged, a sudden desperate blur of primal rage, transforming into his massive wolf form mid-air, hurtling towards me. Core, intent on tearing me apart. His pack surged forward, their howls echoing his fury. Valerius, however, remained still, crimson eyes calculating, assessing. He made a subtle gesture to his enforcers. They did not move, their loyalty to him absolute, their movements dictated by his chilling intellect. He was watching, waiting, gauging my true power. As Gideon closed the distance, his jaws snapping, his eyes burning with absolute hatred, I did not flee. I did not fight with brute force. I tapped into the deepest well of my hybrid power, a confluence of wolf and vampire. My form blurred, not into a full shift, but into a partial, more potent transformation. My skin rippled, covered in sleek black fur, my limbs elongated, becoming powerful and agile. My hands morphed into clawed talons, my teeth elongated into sharp, predatory fangs, my eyes burning with a fierce, golden gold light. Met Gideon's charge. I unleashed a wave of pure, concentrated sonic energy, a piercing, high-frequency cry that resonated with both wolf and vampire senses, vibrating through the very air, designed to disorient and overwhelm. It wasn't a physical attack, but an assault on their sensory systems, a weapon forged from the very essence of my unique bloodlines. Gideon, caught mid-lunge, shrieked, a sound of pure agony, his powerful form faltering, collapsing to the ground, writhing in pain. His pack, caught in the wave, stumbled, howling in distress, their coordinated attack dissolving into chaos. Valerius watched, his crimson eyes wide with a terrifying blend of awe and cold understanding. This was the weapon he had envisioned, but one utterly beyond his control. He made a quick, decisive gesture. His enforcers, now wary, moved to secure their prince, forming a protective barrier around him, their initial predatory intent replaced by a chilling realization of the power they faced. I stood in my half-shifted form, my chest heaving, the power still coursing through me. The clearing was silent, save for the whimpering of the disoriented wolves and Gideon's guttural groans of pain. Valerius and his enforcers remained frozen, their previous arrogance replaced by a profound, cautious respect. "The choice remains," I stated, my voice echoing, resonating with the raw power I had just unleashed. "Freedom or destruction, for all of us." My gaze swept from Gideon, writhing in the dirt, to Valerius, his face now etched with a terrifying blend of fear and ambition. The vampire prince, ever the pragmatist, finally spoke, his voice unusually strained, laced with a grudging acknowledgement. "The terms are noted, Elara. This display of power, it is truly remarkable. A force to be reckoned with. A threat to be understood." He paused, his crimson eyes narrowed, calculating. "We will observe. For now. But know that the prince does not forget such potential." With a swift, fluid motion, he vanished, his enforcers dissolving into the shadows after him, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. Gideon, slowly recovering, pushed himself up, his eyes, still burning with hatred, now also held a stark, undeniable fear. He looked at his disoriented pack, then back at me, standing tall in my terrifying hybrid form. His fury was still there, but now it was overshadowed by a chilling realization. He had faced something he could not defeat, something that defied his very understanding of nature. "This is not over, hybrid?" Gideon snarled, his voice weak, but filled with a promise of future conflict. He turned, his powerful form still trembling, and limped away into the forest, his pack, their tails tucked, trailing silently behind him. The forest, once a battleground, now returned to a profound, unsettling quiet. I stood, alone in the clearing, slowly shifting back to my human form, the raw power receding, leaving me drained but resolute. Morwen approached, her face etched with relief and a profound admiration. "You did it, Elara," she whispered, her emerald eyes shining. "You showed them. You faced them both. And you carved out your own path. Your freedom." I looked at the charred remains of the cabin, then at the vast, indifferent forest. The battle for my survival, for my very existence, was far from over. But I had asserted my will. I had declared my independence. Both packs and the vampire coven now feared what I might become, but they also understood that I was not to be trifled with. The base ghost, the hybrid abomination, was now Elara, a powerful, unpredictable force ready to navigate the treacherous currents of their ancient world, not as a victim, but as a sovereign entity. My path to true freedom had just begun, a path forged in the crucible of defiance, and illuminated by the fierce, unwavering light of my own unique power. The aftermath of the confrontation at the lodge settled over the forest like a shroud, heavy with the scent of ozone and residual power. My body power, ached, a testament to the raw energy I had expended, but a profound sense of clarity, of purpose, resonated within me. I had faced both the Alpha and the Vampire Prince, not with blind aggression or desperate flight, but with a calculated display of my unique hybrid abilities, forcing them to acknowledge my existence on my own terms. The silence that followed their retreat was not the quiet of immediate peace, but the ominous calm before a new storm, a period of watchful waiting. Morwen, her ancient eyes gleaming with a mixture of pride and cautious anticipation, stood beside me amidst the lingering tension. "They will not forget this, Elara," she stated, her voice a low murmur. "Gideon's fear has solidified into a deeper apprehension, a primal recognition of a power he cannot control, and Valerius, his ambition, has been ignited by a terrifying new understanding of your potential. He will seek to analyze, to dissect, to replicate what he witnessed. He will still want to weaponize you, but with a renewed, more insidious approach. I nodded, my gaze sweeping the silent clearing. I know. Their fear and their ambition are predictable, but now they operate with new information. My power is no longer just a rumor, it is a demonstrated reality. Over the next few weeks, the hunting lodge became my true sanctuary, a fortress of knowledge and continued training. Morwen delved deeper into the esoteric arts, teaching me ancient wards and protective spells, imbuing the very stones of the lodge with subtle magical defenses. I, in turn, refined my own abilities, pushing the boundaries of my sonic capabilities, learning to pinpoint specific frequencies that could disrupt supernatural senses without causing permanent harm. I experimented with shadow manipulation, creating complex illusions that could confound even the most experienced trackers. My regeneration accelerated further, healing even minor wounds in seconds, a silent testament to the rapid adaptation of my hybrid physiology. The quiet was punctuated by the subtle tremors of the world outside, the faint whispers of news that Morwen, through her own mysterious network, sometimes picked up. Rumors of increased skirmishes between rogue wolf packs and independent vampire cells, a growing tension in the supernatural underworld, as if the ripple effect of my confrontation had unsettled the delicate balance of care. Power, my existence, a singular anomaly, was slowly but irrevocably reshaping the ancient feuds. One chilly evening, as the first snowflakes began to dust the forest, a familiar presence manifested on the edge of the clearing. It was Theron, Gideon's tracker. He stood at the perimeter of Morwen's wards, hesitant, his posture one of cautious respect, not aggression. He was in his human form, his gaze direct, earnest. I emerged from the lodge, Morwen, a silent presence behind me. Theron bowed his head slightly, a gesture of deference that spoke volumes. "Elara," he began, his voice low, "Alpha Gideon sent me, not to hunt you, not to attack, but to understand." He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "He wishes to know how you accomplished what you did, how you possessed such power. He fears what you represent, but he also acknowledges your strength." I studied him, his eyes reflecting a genuine struggle between loyalty to his alpha and a dawning, reluctant respect for me. "He fears what he does not understand," I stated, my voice calm. "My existence challenges his world view, and he wishes to control that which he fears." "Perhaps," Theron conceded, his gaze unwavering. "But his fear is also for his pack, for their survival. He believes you are a threat to their purity, to their ancient way of life. But after what I witnessed, after you healed me, I am no longer certain what you truly are, or what you truly seek." "I seek freedom," I reiterated, my voice firm. "And to carve my own path. I am not an enemy to the pack, Theron, nor am I a pawn for the vampires. I am a separate entity." I paused, considering him. He had been Gideon's instrument of vengeance, yet he had also witnessed my compassion. He was a potential bridge, however fragile, to the Alpha. "Tell your Alpha this. I have no desire for war with his pack, But if he continues to threaten my existence, I will defend myself, and the consequences will be severe. For all of them. Theron nodded slowly, his expression grim. I will relay your words, but be warned, Elara. The Alpha's fear is deeply rooted. It will not be easily swayed. He glanced towards Morwen, his eyes widening slightly, a flicker of apprehension at the powerful magic emanating from the ancient seer. And the witch she is with you now? Morwen is my guide, I affirmed. She understands the balance. Theron hesitated for a moment longer, then nodded once more, a final, respectful gesture. He turned and disappeared into the snow-dusted forest, his movements silent, leaving behind only the lingering scent of damp earth and wolf. A few days later, a colder, more elegant presence appeared at the edge of the wards. It was Cassian, Valerius's enforcer. He stood with his usual regal posture, but his eyes held a subtle, calculating intensity. He, too, respected the wards, not daring to cross them without invitation. Elara, Cassian's voice, smooth and devoid of inflection, carried through the crisp air. The prince sends his compliments. He has been pondering your abilities, your unique physiology. He wishes to offer you a proposition. I am not interested in propositions that involve my subjugation, Cassian. I retorted, my voice firm. Tell Valerius I am not a weapon to be wielded. The prince understands your desire for autonomy, Cassian continued, unperturbed. But he also understands power. Your power. He offers you a place within his court, a position of unparalleled influence, not as a weapon, but as an advisor, a strategist, someone who can help him understand the true potential of your bloodline, and perhaps even help him unlock similar abilities in his own kind. In return, he offers protection, resources, and a formal cessation of his pursuit. It was a tempting offer, a dangerous one. Access to ancient vampire knowledge, a position of influence, a promise of protection. But it came at a cost, a subtle, insidious form of control. Valerius would still seek to dissect me, to understand me, to ultimately, perhaps, replicate me. The prince's ambition is transparent, Cassian, I replied, my voice cool. He wishes to control what he cannot fully comprehend. My power is my own. It is not for sale, nor is it for replication, and my freedom is not negotiable. Cassian's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. A predictable response, Elara. But the prince is patient. He understands that circumstances change. He merely extends an invitation. For now. But know this. He perceives your power as a potential threat to his own dominance. If you do not align with him, you will eventually become an obstacle. And the prince eliminates obstacles, one way or another. He bowed slightly, a gesture of cold respect, then vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only the faint chill of his presence. They circle you, Elara, Morwen observed, her voice a low hum beside me. The wolf fears what you are. The vampire desires what you are. Neither truly understands your true potential, the power to bridge, not just to conquer. I looked at the snow-dusted forest, then at the sturdy walls of the lodge. The uneasy truce was fragile, a temporary lull in the ongoing war for my existence. I had sent messages to both the Alpha and the Prince, clear declarations of my independence, demonstrations of my power. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. Their ancient prejudices, their ingrained ambitions, ran too deep. My path to freedom would not be granted. It would have to be forged through constant vigilance, through strategic defiance, and perhaps through an act that would force both sides to reevaluate their entire existence. I was the hybrid, born of two opposing worlds, and now I was the catalyst for a new era. The hunt was far from over. But now I was not merely the prey. I was the game changer. My heart, a complex engine of wolf, vampire, and a fierce, unyielding human will, beat with a quiet resolve, ready to face whatever came next. The winter deepened, cloaking the forest in a thick blanket of snow, transforming the world into a stark, silent landscape. The hunting lodge, nestled amidst the frosted pines, became a testament to my growing power and Morwen's enduring wisdom. Our training intensified, focusing not just on individual abilities, but on their combined potential, on the synergy of wolf instinct and vampire control. I learned to manipulate the very elements, drawing on the Earth's primal energy to create localized tremors, or harnessing the chilling stillness of the air to create pockets of disorienting cold. My senses expanded further, allowing me to perceive not just physical threats, but subtle shifts in emotional resonance, the undercurrents of fear, greed, and ancient animosity that flowed through the supernatural world. The uneasy truce held, a fragile peace punctuated by the distant, echoing whispers of the ongoing conflict between disparate wolf packs and independent vampire cells. My existence, a silent beacon of anomaly, seemed to exacerbate the tensions, forcing both sides to reevaluate their strategies, their very identities. Gideon, the Alpha, remained silent after Theron's return, his pride wounded, his fear growing. Valerius, the vampire prince, continued his silent observation, his ambition simmering beneath a veneer of cold patience, undoubtedly devising new strategies to either control or eliminate me. "They are studying you, Elara," Morwen observed one evening, her emerald eyes fixed on the crackling fire. "Trying to understand your limits, your vulnerabilities. They will not remain silent indefinitely. Their ambition, their fear, will compel them to act." "I know," I replied, my voice calm, devoid of anxiety. My focus was on preparedness, on anticipating their moves, on turning their strategies against them. "And I will be ready." My solitude was broken only by occasional, fleeting visits from Theron and Cassian. Theron, bound by the strange debt of my healing blood, appeared under the cover of night, his visits ostensibly to relay information, but also, I sensed, a manifestation of his growing curiosity, his grudging respect. He brought news of Gideon's increasing paranoia, his attempts to shore up his pack's defenses, and his continued, fervent belief in my status as an abomination. "The Alpha fears you more than ever," Theron admitted one night, his voice low, his wolf eyes gleaming in the dim light of the lodge. "He sees your power as an affront to our very nature. He believes he will ultimately unravel the ancient ways, destroy all that is pure. He still debates striking you down, despite the potential consequences." "Loyalty to him, Theron?" I asked, my gaze unwavering. "Where does it truly lie?" Theron hesitated, his powerful frame tensing. "I am Pack," he stated, his voice firm. "My loyalty is to Gideon, but I am also a warrior, and I recognize true power, true justice. Your actions, they challenge everything I was taught. They force me to question, but I am still Pack." His internal struggle was palpable, a testament to the profound shift my existence had forced upon even Gideon's most loyal soldier. Cassian's visits were rarer, more clandestine, his approach cloaked in shadows and chilling silence. He came not to spy, but to observe, to analyze, to unravel the enigma that was my hybrid being. His initial curiosity had morphed into a chilling fascination, an intellectual pursuit driven by Valerius's insatiable desire for power. He spoke of Valerius's growing interest in my sonic abilities, in my enhanced regeneration, in the potential to replicate aspects of my hybridity within the vampire coven. "The prince views you as the ultimate evolutionary leap, Elara," Cassian explained one visit, his voice a low melodic hum. "A path to unparalleled dominance. He understands now that brute force will not suffice. He seeks to persuade you, to offer you a place within his vision for the future, a future where his kind reigns supreme, elevated by your gifts." "And your role in this, Cassian?" I challenged, my gaze piercing. "Are you merely a messenger, or do you truly believe in his vision?" Cassian's lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. "My loyalty is to the prince, but I also recognize unparalleled power when I see it. You are a unique phenomenon, Elara, and in a world of ancient, stagnant feuds, a phenomenon that offers interesting possibilities." There was a subtle shift in his tone, a hint of intellectual curiosity that transcended mere servitude. He was studying me, yes, but also, perhaps, intrigued by the implications of my existence for his own ancient lineage. As the weeks turned into months, the subtle shifts in the supernatural world began to coalesce into a clearer pattern. The attacks between rogue packs and independent covens escalated, growing bolder, more frequent. It was a proxy war, a subtle testing of boundaries, as both Gideon and Valerius, their attention fixed on me, sought to assert their dominance indirectly, preparing for a larger conflict. I knew my decision point was approaching. I could not remain passive forever. My freedom, I realized, would not be found in isolation, but in confronting the very forces that sought to deny it. Then, the true nature of their strategy became horrifyingly clear. News reached us, first whispered rumors, then confirmed reports of human communities being subtly targeted, not with overt violence, but with a chilling campaign of fear and manipulation. Local disappearances, strange animal attacks, whispers of ancient curses. It was a deliberate strategy, orchestrated by both sides, to destabilize the human world, to create chaos, to draw me out. The wolves blamed it on road vampires, driving humans into a terrified frenzy. The vampires exacerbated the fear, blaming it on uncontrolled wolf packs. They were using humanity as pawns, bait in a larger game designed to corner me. My blood ran cold. This was unacceptable. My mother, the wolf, had taught me the sanctity of the balance between predator and prey, the unseen rules of the wild. My father, the vampire, despite his detached nature, had always maintained a strict code of conduct regarding human interaction, avoiding unnecessary disruption, preferring to operate in the shadows. This new strategy, designed to exploit human fear, was a violation of all natural and supernatural laws. It was a cynical, dangerous escalation. "They are forcing your hand, Elara," Morwen stated, her face grim. "They are using the innocent to draw you out, to test your compassion, your limits." My fists clenched, a surge of righteous fury coursing through my veins. For too long, I had been the hunted. For too long, I had been the object of their fear and ambition. But this targeting of innocent lives crossed a line. It awakened a primal protectiveness within me, a fierce, unwavering determination that transcended my personal quest for freedom. I remembered the faces of my parents, their desperate attempts to shield me, to instill in me a sense of honor despite their warring natures. I was not just a hybrid, I was the culmination of their forbidden love, a living testament to a different path. And that path dictated that I could not stand by while innocent lives were used as collateral damage in an ancient, senseless feud. I turned to Morwen, my eyes burning with a fierce, unwavering resolve. "This ends now," I declared, my voice low, resonant with a newfound authority. "I will not let them drag humanity into their war. I will force them to confront me directly, and I will make them understand, once and for all, that I am not a monster, nor a weapon, but a force for balance." Morwen nodded, a faint, proud smile touching her lips. "Then the time has come, Elara, to show them the true power of the hybrid, to wield your strength, not for destruction, but for justice." I spent the next few days preparing, my mind a whirlwind of strategy and anticipation. I contacted Theron, sending him a subtle, almost imperceptible psychic message, a quiet summons. He arrived under the full moon, his face etched with concern. "What is happening, Elara?" he asked, his voice low. "The Alpha is agitated. The humans, they are terrified. They are being used, Theron," I stated, my voice firm. "As pawns in a game designed to flush me out. It stops now. I am calling a summit, a meeting, between Gideon, Valerius, and myself, a neutral ground, and you." I looked at him, my gaze unwavering. "Will be my witness, and my messenger to your Alpha. Tell him to come alone and unarmed. Tell him this is his last chance for peace." Theron stared, his eyes wide with shock. "A summit? Alone? He will never agree." "He will," I countered, my voice resolute. "Because he fears what I can do, and because I will give him no other choice. If he refuses, the consequences for his pack will be absolute, and I will choose the time and place of my next appearance, and it will not be to their advantage." I then used a subtle, ancient technique Morwen had taught me, a form of long-range psychic communication, to reach Cassian. His chillingly calm voice resonated in my mind, tinged with a subtle surprise. "The prince has noted your presence, Elara, your renewed activity. What is your message?" "Tell Valerius," I communicated, my thoughts clear and precise, "that I demand a summit between him, Gideon, and myself, a neutral ground. He is to come alone and unarmed. His manipulation of the human world ends now. If he refuses, I will bring the full force of my hybrid power directly to his coven, and the consequences will be devastating. A long silence on Cassian's end. Then, a faint, almost amused chuckle. Bold, Elara. Very bold. The prince will be intrigued. He will contemplate your offer. He has no other choice, I retorted, cutting the mental connection. The summit was set. A secluded clearing, miles from any human habitation, deep within a forgotten valley, surrounded by ancient, snow-laden trees. My heart beat with a quiet ferocity, a mixture of apprehension and a fierce, unyielding determination. This was my moment, the culmination of years of persecution, of desperate flight, of profound transformation. I was Elara, the hybrid, born of two bloodlines, hunted by both, but now forging my own path to freedom, ready to reshape the very destiny of their ancient worlds. The final confrontation was nigh, and I was no longer just a ghost. I was a force, ready to make them see the undeniable power of balance. The air in the secluded clearing crackled with an almost unbearable tension, thick with the scent of snow and the potent clashing energies of ancient power. The setting sun cast long skeletal shadows through the snow-laden trees, painting the landscape in shades of stark white and deepening twilight. This was the neutral ground I had chosen, a forgotten valley far from any human settlement, its desolate beauty a chilling backdrop for the confrontation that would decide my fate, and perhaps the fate of the supernatural world. I stood in the centre of the clearing, my posture relaxed, yet radiating an unwavering strength. My black tactical suit, specially designed for stealth and flexibility, blended seamlessly with the encroaching shadows. My golden eyes, clear and resolute, scanned the perimeter, anticipating their arrival. Morwen was a silent, watchful presence at the edge of the clearing, her hand clasped around her gnarled staff, its faint glow a subtle, protective ward. The first to arrive was Gideon, the alpha of the Blood Moon pack. He emerged from the dense tree line, not in his wolf form, but as a towering, powerfully built man, his face grim, etched with a mixture of suspicion and grudging respect. He was alone, as I had demanded, but the air around him hummed with the raw, suppressed power of his pack, their unseen presence a heavy weight in the forest. His eyes, burning like molten gold, immediately fixed on me, a flicker of his ingrained hatred warring with the fear I had instilled. He stopped a few yards away, his stance wary, his powerful frame tensed, as if ready to spring. "Hybrid," he snarled, his voice a low growl. "This is a fool's errand. You cannot dictate terms to an alpha." "I dictate terms to those who threaten innocent lives, Gideon," I retorted, my voice calm, unwavering. "And you, with your deliberate terrorizing of human communities, have crossed a line." Before Gideon could respond, a chilling presence manifested in the clearing, a ripple in the very fabric of shadow. Valerius the Vampire Prince materialized from the deepest gloom, his elegant form utterly silent, his cruisen eyes glowing with a cold, calculating intensity. He, too, was alone, his enforcers, like Gideon's pack, lurking unseen beyond the clearing's boundaries. He regarded Gideon with a faint, disdainful sneer, then turned his mesmerizing gaze to me, a predatory glint in his ancient eyes. "Elara!" Valerius's voice was a low, melodic hum, resonating with subtle power. Your audacity is intriguing, to summon both an alpha and a prince. You truly believe you hold such sway? I hold the power to end your petty war, Valerius, I stated, my voice firm. And to expose your machinations to the human world, should you force my hand. Your manipulation of human communities stops now. Gideon scoffed, a sneer twisting his lips. She speaks of peace, yet she threatens. She is a monster, Valerius. She must be purged. And you, Alpha, are an ancient, stagnant relic, Valerius countered, his voice dripping with condescension. Clinging to outdated fears, this hybrid, however unruly, presents an opportunity for true power, a new era for my coven. He turned his full attention to me, his crimson eyes gleaming with a terrifying blend of ambition and fascination. Join me, Elara. Lend me your power, and together we can forge a new world. A world where my kind reigns supreme, elevated by your unique gifts. Your freedom will be absolute, within my domain. Your domain is a cage, Valerius, I retorted, my voice sharp. And your ambition is a disease. I will not be your weapon, nor will I be your instrument of conquest. I turned my gaze to Gideon, whose face was contorted with a fresh wave of fury. And you, Gideon? Your fear clouds your judgment. You pursue purity, but your hatred leads only to destruction. Your pack will be consumed by this senseless war if you do not cease. Silence, abomination! Gideon roared, his control finally snapping. He surged forward, his powerful hands clenching, intent on seizing me. You corrupt all that you touch. You will die here. Before he could reach me, Valerius moved, his speed impossibly fast, materializing between Gideon and me. His hand, cold as ice, gripped Gideon's wrist, stopping him mid-lunge. This one is mine, Alpha, Valerius stated, his voice a chilling growl, his crimson eyes burning with a possessive fury. She will not be destroyed by your primitive rage, not when she holds the key to my destiny. Gideon, momentarily stunned by Valerius's intervention, snarled, struggling against the vampire's iron grip. She is a threat to us both, to all. She must be eliminated. I watched them, the ancient hatred between their kind boiling to the surface, their attention momentarily diverted from me, fixed on each other. This was the moment. The opportunity to make my definitive statement. You speak of threats, I declared, my voice resonating through the clearing, commanding their attention, but you are the true threats, to balance, to coexistence, to the innocent lives you manipulate for your own selfish agendas. I raised my hands, palms open, drawing upon the deepest wells of my hybrid power, a confluence of wolf and vampire energy. The air around me began to hum, vibrating with a palpable force. My golden eyes glowed with an intense inner light, and the shadows around my form deepened, swirling around me like a living cloak. The snow beneath my feet began to melt, then shimmer, the very ground responding to my unleashed power. I am the culmination of your defiance, I proclaimed, my voice echoing, resonating with a terrifying majesty. The child of forbidden love, and I refuse to be defined by your hatred. I refuse to be a pawn in your ancient, meaningless war. I channeled the raw primal energy of the wolf, a surge of untamed power that rooted me to the earth. and I drew upon the cold, refined precision of the vampire, manipulating the unseen currents, bending the very elements to my will. A shimmering wave of pure energy, an ethereal force composed of both light and shadow, pulsed outwards from my body, washing over Gideon and Valerius. It wasn't a destructive force, but a profound, disorienting one, designed to disrupt their internal balance, to force them to experience the raw, overwhelming power of a truly balanced hybrid. Gideon cried out, a guttural roar of pain and confusion, his powerful form staggering backward, collapsing to his knees. The raw, untamed energy of the wolf within him rebelled against the unnatural influx of my balanced power, overwhelming his senses, stripping him of his aggressive focus. His golden eyes, wide with terror, stared at me, no longer seeing an abomination, but a terrifying force beyond his comprehension. Valerius, though more resilient, recoiled, his elegant form trembling. A low hiss escaped his lips, a sound of profound shock and reluctant awe. The cold, calculating precision of his vampiric mind struggled to comprehend the influx of raw, untamed wolf energy, intertwined with the power he had sought to wield. His crimson eyes, now wide with bewildered respect, fixed on me, recognizing a power far beyond his ancient abilities. Their silent enforcers and unseen pack members, lurking beyond the clearing, were also affected, their senses momentarily overwhelmed, their coordinated threat dissolving into disoriented confusion. I stood there, my power flowing, the epicenter of a new reality. The clearing was still, save for the heavy breathing of Gideon and Valerius, their forms temporarily incapacitated, stripped of their power and their arrogance. "This is your choice," I stated, my voice calm but unyielding, the power within me resonating with every word. "Cease your war. Cease your pursuit of me. Live in relative peace, respecting the ancient balance, or face the full, unbridled force of what I can become, a force that will not discriminate, that will not be controlled, that will unravel the very fabric of your worlds." Gideon, slowly regaining his composure, looked at me, his eyes no longer blazing with pure hatred, but with a complex mix of fear, grudging respect, and a dawning, terrifying understanding. He had seen my power, witnessed its overwhelming force. He knew now that direct confrontation was suicide. He slowly pushed himself up, his movements stiff, his gaze still fixed on me. Valerius, ever the pragmatist, was faster to recover. His crimson eyes, still wide with a mix of awe and cold calculation, focused on me. He had witnessed a power beyond his comprehension, a potential far greater than any weapon he could have forged. The pursuit, the weaponization, now seemed utterly futile. He saw not a tool, but a peer, a powerful anomaly that could shift the very dynamics of their ancient world. "The terms are understood, Elara," Valerius finally said, his voice surprisingly subdued, tinged with a reluctant acceptance. "Your power, it is indeed formidable, and the implications significant. The Prince acknowledges your sovereignty. For now, the human communities will be left undisturbed. Our direct pursuit will cease." It was not a capitulation, but a strategic retreat, a recognition of an undeniable force. He gave a subtle nod of respect, then, with a silent, elegant movement, vanished into the gathering twilight, his unseen enforcers dissolving into the shadows after him. Gideon, still struggling with the profound shock of my power, looked at the spot where Valerius had disappeared, then back at me. His pride was wounded, his fear palpable, but a glimmer of something else, something akin to understanding, flickered in his eyes. He slowly bowed his head, a gesture of profound, albeit reluctant, respect, one he would never have offered before. "Very well, Elara," Gideon rumbled, his voice low, tinged with grudging defeat. Your terms are accepted. The human communities will be left alone. Our pursuit will cease. But know this, the ancient ways, they are not easily changed. You have shown us a new power, a terrifying one. We will watch, and we will remember. He turned, a silent, powerful figure, and melted back into the snow-laden forest, his unseen pack following, their presence fading into the silent wilderness. I stood alone in the clearing, the last vestiges of my power receding, leaving me drained but utterly free. Morwen approached, her face radiating profound satisfaction. "You did it, child," she whispered, her emerald eyes shining with pride. "You faced them both, and you carved out your freedom. You have not just survived, Elara. You have forged a new path. For yourself, and, perhaps, for all of us." I looked at the vast, silent forest, then up at the darkening sky, a sense of immense relief washing over me. The relentless hunt was over. The constant fear, the desperate flight, the crushing weight of their expectations had lifted. I was Elara, the hybrid, born of two bloodlines, hunted by both, but now free. My power, once a source of fear, was now a beacon of autonomy. My journey to freedom had led me to redefine my very existence, to become a force of balance in a world consumed by ancient hatred. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, it was truly mine to shape, unburdened by the shadows of my past.